Rabi Al-Awwal, or in transliteration Rab al-Awwal, is the third month of the Islamic lunar calendar, which is known as the Hijri calendar. It comes after Muharram and Afar, and it is also known as Rab al-Anwar by some Muslim scholars. The name Rabi al-Awwal, which literally means the first spring, was introduced during the pre-Islamic era, approximately in 412 CE, i.e. during the days of Kilab ibn Murrah, the fifth great-grandfather of our Prophet Muhammad pbuh. It was reported that the Tahmid of Al-Arab al-Bida, the extinguished Arabs, called it as Mrid, whilst Al-Arab al-Riba, the Arabic Arabs, or as some would term as Al-Arab al-Baqiyya, the endured Arabs, named it Alq. No name was reported from Al-Arab al-Mustariba, the Arabist Arabs. It seems that the month was known in the pre-Islamic Arabian Peninsula as Al-Qawan, which denotes betrayals. Historians assumed that it was named as such for the increasing number of betrayals that will usually take place in this month due to armed fights that often started in the preceding month, Najir, the force of thirst. This happens because the first month, that is Al-Mutamar or Al-Mutamir, is the sacred month of conference and consultation, where attacks are prohibited and must be delayed to the second month, except when the latter is brought forward. The pre-Islamic Arabs of the peninsula have later changed their names to Muharram and Afar, and whenever Afar is brought forward to allow for a fight, they are deemed Afarn, the two Afars. One shall look up the various interpretation of the system of Nas in the Arabic pre-Islamic calendar to have a better grasp of the dating system. Nevertheless, there are several opinions for the reason of the name Rabi al-Awwal. It is supposed to refer to its position during the pre-Islamic period within the Arab six-season scheme: 2 months of first spring, 2 months of summer, 2 months of heat, 2 months of second spring, 2 months of autumn, and 2 months of winter. Some said it happened that the month occurred in the first spring during the naming exercise. Others viewed that it is the month where the Arabs tend to grow, tarb, their ownings, particularly animals acquired from the spoils of wars they joined in the previous month. There are also those who opined that the month came in autumn, where people and animals would keep themselves irtib, or in waiting, literally vernalization. However, the Arabs called it spring, Rab, for better luck. The final view argues that there is no connection between the names of the months and the names of the seasons. Arabs, according to them, referred to Rab by 2 types of spring, the spring months and the spring season. The spring or growing months refer to Rabi al-Awwal and Rabi al-Thani that occur after Afar, whilst the spring season is of 2 times. The first is when truffles and iris are blooming, and the second is when fruits are ready to be harvested. When Islam came, the name of Rabi al-Awwal was retained. Hence, the birth of Prophet Muhammad, pbuh, was remembered to be in Rabi al-Awwal, and not by the name Qawan. This is the first event of Sirah that took place in Rabi al-Awwal, and the most celebrated one by Muslims across the world from the beginning of the 6th/12th century, regardless of its various forms of celebration, from reading a book of prophetic biography to commemorative rituals and ceremonial events. It was proposed by some that the pious ascetic Mun al-Din Abu of Umar ibn Muhammad ibn Kir, 570-1174 CE, of Erbil, also known as Umar al-Mala, was the first to host commemorative sessions at his Zawaya lodge, in Mosul. Many, however, attributed it to the Fatimids, particularly its 4th king, Al-Mu'izz-Din Allah, Re 341365 Alpha-953-975 CE, who made it an official annual festival alongside several other birthday celebrations. The third view argues that it was Al-Malik al-Mu'ammar al-Din Abu Sa'd Gokbari, d.630-1232 CE, the king of Erbil, who initiated the proper grand celebration in 620 A. A book titled Al-Tanvir fi Mawlid al-Siraj al-Munir was composed by the Ad scholar Ibn Diyah al-Kalbi, d.633 A/1235 CE, following the request of the king. The exact date of the birthday has been a point of dispute amongst Muslim scholars, and it ranges between 2nd, 8th, 9th, 10th, 12th, and 17th of Rabi Al-Awwal. Similarly, Muslim scholars also debated over the validity of the celebration between acceptance or considering it as a heretical innovation. Nevertheless, they agreed on the occurrence of the birth in Rabi Al-Awwal except for a single view that pointed out Rayman instead. It was also reported that from amongst the suggestions for the first month of the Hijri calendar during the time of Umar ibn al-Khattab was Rabi Al-Awwal, for it would remind the community of the birth of the Prophet. Speaking of Hijri calendar, it was known as such in relation to the Hijrah, migration, of the Prophet from Mecca to Yathrib to establish the first Muslim community. The name of Yathrib was changed later to Medina. In a Muslim, the Prophet was reported saying, "I have been commanded to migrate to a residence which would overpower other residences." The people of this area call it Yathrib, the cursed area, whilst it is in fact the civilized area, Al-Medina. It will eliminate uncivilized individuals just as a furnace removes the alloy of iron. The event of Hijrah then marks the rise of the adabized, educated, society and unites the tribes of Yathrib amongst themselves and with the emigrants. The move towards unity and brotherhood was reflected as well in the establishment of Muka, Emigrant Native Assistant Pact of Brotherhood, introduced by the Prophet. In the A of al-Bukhari, it is reported that when the emigrants reached Medina, the Prophet established the bond of fraternity between Abd al-Ram ibn Auf and Sa'd ibn al-Rab. Sa'd said to Abd al-Ram, "I am the richest of all the Anr, native assistants, so I wish to divide my property between us." Although the date of departure from Mecca has been debated by scholars, the arrival in Yathrib was accepted to be in Rabi Al-Awwal. The significance of Hijrah has led some scholars to assert that it is the most important event that took place in Rabi Al-Awwal, more important even than the birth of the Prophet. The count of the Hijri year in the new Islamic lunar calendar considered this as a beginning of a new community, although Muharram was chosen as the first month of the year to retain the normal system of pre-Islamic Arabia. The formation of this new community, which can also be regarded as the establishment of Al-Jama'ah al-Islamiyah, was followed by a series of prominent events. Since Hijrah of the Prophet himself was completed in Rabi Al-Awwal, the establishment of the first mosque in Islam happened undoubtedly in the same month. It was reported that during his migration to Yathrib, the Prophet, Pbuh, stopped by a village that was inhabited by the clan of Amru ibn Auf, a tribe of Laws. It is located 3 kilometers away from the current Masjid Nabawi. The village was named after a well inside it known as Qub. Thereupon, the Prophet laid down the foundation for the first mosque in the history of Islam, Masjid Qub. It is one of the most significant mosques referenced in the Quran. Even after his settlement in Medina, the Prophet made it a habit to come to Masjid Qub every week, either by foot or riding his camel, and offer 2 rakah prayer therein. He mentioned, "Whoever purifies himself at his house, comes to Masjid Qub and offers 1 prayer therein, he will receive a reward like that for an umrah, minor pilgrimage." Rabi Al-Awwal then is the month of the establishment of the Jama and the first Jami, mosque. Interestingly, the first Jama prayer was also performed in Rabi Al-Awwal. It was reported that the Prophet left the village of the clan of Amru ibn Auf on Friday, and on his way to Yathrib, he passed by the village of the clan of Salim ibn Auf. Thereupon, the people of Salim grabbed the rope of his camel and said to him, "O Prophet of Allah, you have stayed at the place of our cousins for several days. If you passed by our place and you did not stay, they will claim the pride before us until forever." Hence, the Prophet alighted there and performed the first Jama with approximately 100 individuals. Amongst the attendees were the men from the clan of Amru ibn Auf who escorted him from Qub, and the Prophet's relatives from the clan of Malik ibn al-Nayyar, a tribe of Hazraj who came to celebrate him. Later, a mosque was built in this area and named Masjid al-Jama'. It is also known as Masjid Bani Salim and Masjid Tika. The Prophet lived in Medina for 10 years. He departed this world at the age of 63. This most trying event of the nascent Muslim community also took place in Rabi Al-Awwal as agreed by most Muslim scholars. Ibn Rajab wrote, when the Prophet passed, the serenity of the Muslim community was extremely disrupted. There were amongst them who were shocked and disoriented. Some collapsed to the ground and could not stand. Some were dumbstruck and could not speak. Some even denied his demise. Al-Imam al-Darimi reported a hadith in which the Prophet said, whoever is afflicted with calamity, then let him remind himself of my calamity, for it is the greatest calamity. In a similar narration by Ibn Majah, he said, O people, whoever amongst the people or amongst the believers is afflicted with a calamity, then let him console himself by thinking of my parting of this world, for no one amongst my nation will be stricken with any calamity worse than losing me. Indeed, the death of the Prophet is the greatest calamity. Al-Qurab said, the Prophet has spoken the truth. The calamity associated with his loss is greater than any other calamities afflicting a Muslim until the day of resurrection. Revelation is cut off and the prophetic direct guidance has ended. Anas ibn Malik Ra reported, the day the Messenger of Allah Pbuh came to Medina, everything in it became illuminated. The day when the Messenger of Allah Pbuh died, everything in Medina became dark. We had not yet brushed off the dust from our hands after the burial of the Messenger of Allah Pbuh, but we already denied our hearts. These are the most prominent events in the Sirah of the Prophet, Pbuh. Rabi Al-Awwal presents us with mixed feelings whenever it arrives. To continue, the appointment of the first caliph also happened in Rabi Al-Awwal. As the companions were tending to the preparation for the funeral of the Prophet, some of the Ansar gathered at the Saqafa courtyard of the clan of Sa'd ibn Ka'b, a tribe of Hazraj, to discuss the succession. This gathering eventually led to the appointment of Abu Bakr al-Adhkari, and he was then designated as Khalifat Rasul Allah, the successor of the Messenger of Allah. Abu Bakr was succeeded by a number of caliphs bearing the title of Amir al-Mu'min until the time of Al-Hasan ibn al-Ra, the grandson of the Prophet. Due to conflicts and frictions that surged in the Muslim community, Al-Hasan gave up his post to Muawiyah ibn Abi Sufyan Ra. This event took place in Rabi Al-Awwal, and the year was also known as with Makron al-Jama, the year of unity. There were some other less known or disputed events reported in historical references that took place in Rabi Al-Awwal. Some sources have proposed that the first meeting between the Prophet and the angel Gabriel occurred in Rabi Al-Awwal, as he was appointed as a prophet at the beginning of his 40. The majority refuted this, emphasizing that it took place in Ramadan, as the Prophet was in the cave of Hira during the meeting. Some scholars reconciled between the opinions by saying that the verses of Iqra were revealed to him in Ramadan, whereas the verses of Al-Andar, giving warning, from Al-Mudaththir were revealed in Rabi Al-Awwal. Others suggested that he was assigned as a prophet through a dream in Rabi Al-Awwal, and after 6 months, revelation came to him while he was awake in the cave. It was reported as well that a group of genies, came to listen to his propagation in Rabi Al-Awwal. These are instances related to his bitha and dawa mission. There were also several expeditions and invasions that took place in Rabi Al-Awwal, such as the invasion of Buh in Tu'a, the first expedition to Badr or the invasion of the valley of Safawan in Tu'a, the raid of Diyamar or the raid of Ghafn at Najd in 3A, the patrolling invasion of Buran Edij in 3A, the invasion of the Jewish tribe of Nar in 4A, the expedition of Dumat al-Jandal between Medina and Damascus in 5A, the expedition of Muhammad ibn Maslama to Di al-Qa at Najd in 6A, the invasion of the tribe of Line ibn Hudhail in 6A, and the expedition of Zayd ibn al-Ritha in al-Jamam in 6A. In relation to his family life, 2 of his wives died in Rabi Al-Awwal. They are Zainab Ra and Juwayriyat Ra. His daughter Ruqayyah Ra was born in Rabiul Awwal, and Kulthum Ra was married to Utham ibn Affan Ra in Rabiul Awwal as well. In some reports, his cousin and son-in-law Ali ibn Abi Talib Ra embraced Islam in the month of Rabiul Awwal. In addition to the events of Sirah mentioned above, there are also several interesting facts related to Rabiul Awwal mentioned in the books of Islamic history. Having established himself in Egypt, Al-Din al-Ayyubi took over Damascus in Rabiul Awwal after the death of Nur al-Din Zinki. This is the first important step that led to the unity of the Muslim world, particularly Egypt and Syria, and eventually allowed them to liberate Al-Aqsa from the Crusaders. Egypt was previously under the Fatimid and Syria was under the Abbasid. Al-Din was designated as Sultan Mir wa al-Sham due to this achievement and remembered as one of the most prominent figures of the Muslim world. Additionally, there is a list of prominent figures who were born in Rabiul Awwal. The list includes Al-Imam Ahmad ibn Anbal, d.241-855 CE, the eponymous founder of the Anbal Madhab and the leader of the proponents of Adth, Abu Abdallah al-Kim of Nishapur, d.405-1014 CE, the founder of the science of Adth criticism, Abu al-Qasim al-Kashari, d.465-1074 CE, the renowned scholar, master, and author, Maulana Jalal al-Din al-Rumi, d.672-1273 CE, the famous master and poet, Ibn Taymiyyah al-Arn, d.728-1328 CE, the grand Muslim theologian, scholar, and reformer, Shams al-Din al-Dhahabi, d.748-1348 CE, the eminent Muslim historian and Adth scholar, and Taskoprazaid Ahmed, d.968-1561 CE, an Ottoman historian chronicler. The contribution of these luminaries to the Muslim community is beyond the pages of this writing. Replete with momentous historical events, Rabiul Awwal should have encouraged Muslims to study the Sirah of the Prophet, the history of Islam, and the way to improve their relationship with Allah, His Messenger, and His creation. This is not to say that they should single out this month for that purpose, rather it is natural to find that memories of significant events are attached to the movement of time, and thus, invite a shift of focus in the mind whenever it arrives. Significant moments disrupt the daily rhythm of life and its routine, and as such, should be exploited to improve one's journey in this world. Historically and sociologically, society tend to host celebrations to mark this collective transformative experience. Nevertheless, the fiqh of celebration is not the main aim of this writing. In short, paganistic celebrations are definitely rejected in Islam. Popular celebration of certain events is a matter of long-heated debate, and intellectual reflection appears to be the most beneficial one to a Muslim seeking the meaning and significance of Rabiul Awwal.